Chair now recognizes the distinguished gentleman from California, Chairman of the Health Committee, Mr. Stark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'd like to thank the panel for their input today. I wish we had a hospital administrator here and we could talk about that infrastructure in many parts of our country which lags behind, and particularly in my state where earthquakes are going to force us to spend probably $100 billion just to make the hospitals safe. But I want to draw the distinction for a moment just between two approaches. One of our distinguished leaders across the aisle today suggested that the way to stimulate the economy is to basically cut $100 billion in taxes and give it to large corporations in the form of reduced corporate taxes. And that would amount to some $125 billion a year less revenue that the federal government would get, and thereby increase the deficit $100 billion a year to help large corporations. The opposing approach, I guess, that I would favor is to, if we're going to increase the deficit, to use that to create jobs and invest that in infrastructure, which, when we're all done, at least would leave us with, at the worst, a band shell, at the best, maybe a new school or hospital or something that people could use for the many years that our children will be paying off that debt. But at least it's there and would not result in just more very rich corporate executives making billions of dollars a year. But this same leader across the aisle in his tour around the country said that he wasn't sure that you could increase construction. His comment was, and I'm quoting here, that everything that could be built is being built. Now, I heard Governor Patterson earlier talk about, and I liked his quote, a shovel-ready project. So my question is to our two distinguished panelists, say in the education field, do you think that every municipality and county and state in this country has a, quote, shovel-ready project that would improve the education of our children, whether they're preschool or college age? Aren't there numerous projects that would put additional people to work immediately in the education field? Ms. Weingarten?
We will get you, for the record, the types of projects we think are ready to go already.
Across the country?
Across the country. I know in New York, because of some of the escalating costs, we have at least several million, maybe $1 billion worth of ready-to-go construction that if we had the funding to do it, people could put shovels in the ground. They've already been done. There's always been a 5-year construction program and zoning program and whatnot.
I'd ask then, if I could, Mr. Palmer and Mr. Firestein, and I can help Mr. Firestein because I know where there are a few potholes in Montgomery County. I'm not so familiar with Mr. Palmer's area. But do you guys have projects that are right on the shelf that you could get going in less than 90 days if you had the additional funding?
Yes, absolutely. We have schools that are put on hold. We have the design done, the architecture done. Schools that could go now, that could be built green. Projects, sidewalk repairs, road projects that could go right now and help spur our economy. But I would just want to mention something Mr. McCreary said earlier about believing that government that's closest to the people Well, let me just tell you, mayors, you can't get closer than mayors. And you're hearing from a past president, immediate past president of U.S. Conference of Mayors. We have testimony and reports of what we recommend. And hearing from people that are closest to the people, we believe that there is a fundamental partnership that should exist between the federal government and cities to help us, because we can't do it alone, whether it's in the stimulus package to help as relates to transit, putting monies into our roads, intermodal transportation. We're the ones that deal with families that are losing their homes. We're the people that are dealing with small businesses that can't make it because you have a water main break that has closed their street for 3 weeks, and they're about to lose thousands of dollars. So there is a fundamental partnership that needs to exist. Cities cannot be left on their own to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps when we don't have boots nor straps, and that we certainly believe that the federal government can work in partnership to create jobs in our communities, because at the end of the day, the cities are the ones that you read about that are having the most problems.
I've exceeded my time, but I think that the witnesses clearly point up the distinction that we can cut taxes, which puts a burden of further deficit on our children, whether it's an increased state deficit in California or in South Carolina or in New York or the federal government, or we can take that same increase in deficit and put some people to work, and that has a multiplier effect, and I think would help us dig out of this recession far more quickly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for indulging me in the extra time.
Thank you, Chairman.